Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Bishop-Elect Vanessa M. Brown. I'm your host and moderator for this evening. We are very happy to have you on tonight with the great show in store for you. I would ask and I would say hello, first of all, to Facebook Live, on the Beyond the Gatekeepers page. I say hello to Facebook Live on Bishop Flunder's page. I say hello to LinkedIn. I say hello to Instagram and to Twitter and to YouTube. Thank you all for being here with us. And I know that on tomorrow, you'll be able to hear this conversation again on Spotify and some other networks. And so we are very, very happy to be here tonight. And we have a great show in store for you. I'm going to ask that you do us a big favor and share. That's what we want you to do. We want you to share this conversation. And then as you are sharing, please shout out where you are watching this from. Let us know who you are, where you're watching it from, so that we can shout you out online. And so let's see. We have Christine here. Hello, Christine. Welcome. Sue Doyle from Clearwater. Thank you so much for sharing too, Sue. Joseph Reeves. Bless you, Joseph. Thank you for being on tonight. Anissa McNamee from Michigan. Thank you so much. Reverend Kelly Isola, Unity Village in Kansas. Thank you so much. Deacon Marlene McLaurin, we say welcome to you. We love you as well. Jerry Williams, we say hello. Sean Saunders, hello to you, Pastor. I think the church is the poor, if I'm not mistaken. He'll correct me. Jacqueline Snell out of Baltimore. Andrea Payne from Long Island. Dr. Chella Belcher, Connecticut. Nikita Elmore from Little Rock, also watching from Little Rock, Arkansas. T.G. Taylor, Brooklyn is in the house. As always, you can't do nothing without Brooklyn, y'all. Lindsay Graff from Rochester is here in the place to be. So glad that you're here, Lindsay. Miss Trisha is here with us from Guyana. Welcome, Miss Trisha. Marjorie D. Grievous from Minnesota. Daphne Lampley, St. Petersburg, Florida. Chuck Hunt is a regular. Bless you, Chuck. Monroe, Louisiana. And you all are going to keep sharing. And I know that people are going to keep joining us on tonight. Thank you for continuing to let us know where you're from. We appreciate it. And everywhere where we can be found, we ask you to share this conversation. We know that people can also go back and watch this as well. Greetings from St. Louis, Colette Walker. Thank you so much. And we say welcome tonight. I know that more people are coming in. Before we get started, I want to make sure that I say, Lucy King, I see you from Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much. Van Eric Jones. Van, how are you? Seattle, Washington is in the house. Thank you for being here tonight. So we got people from state to state and across the country watching us on tonight. We're asking that you share. This is going to be a very rich conversation. And before we get into it, though, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that in June, which starts tomorrow, it's Pride Month, for those of you that do not know, but also you should know that the Supreme Court is expected to rule on several things. And so we won't have really a chance to talk about it, but I want to make sure and keep this front face for you. Affirmative action in emissions is emissions unconstitutional for public and private institutions. So that's up before the Supreme Court. The federal government cannot intervene in cases of state gerrymandering. Also something that's up before the Supreme Court for businesses that claim religious exemption for denying services to potential customers who are queer. That's up before the Supreme Court. Against Native people who advocate for adoption of indigenous kids being placed with families who share their culture, and so many other things. And so I want you all to keep an eye out and be listening out for some of these things that are set to be ruled upon by the Supreme Court in this particular month. The struggle is real. The struggle continues. But at the same time, we move forward in the struggle. And so we're grateful for all of you all that are joining us in. I see you, Karen Coleman. Thank you so much. And so Bishop Flunder could not be here with us on tonight. But I did ask my brother to come and be with us. And so Reverend Kendall Brown is going to help me co-host tonight. He is the brand founder of 228 Grant Street Candle Company. He is a preacher, reverend, scholar extraordinaire. And so here he is Reverend Kendall Brown, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, my sister Bishop-Elect. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you for the
Absolutely.
invitation.
Indeed. Indeed. And of course, we want to have this conversation with this woman who I actually met on a plane coming back to Charleston. And I was like, I know who you are. And so got our information. We were able to exchange. Dr. Bertice Berry is here with us tonight. She is the best-selling author and award-winning lecturer of several books. And we want to greet Dr. Berry. And Dr. Berry, we ask that you greet our audiences tonight.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bishop elect and Reverend Brown. Thank you so much. And I am so happy to be here with everybody.
We're very happy to have you. And so we want to get right into it because like I can tell you right now that you have like some serious fans.
Yeah.
Okay. They are diehard, they are loving you.
Yeah.
And honestly, I really first heard about you, and he doesn't know this, through Reverend Kendall Brown.
Oh, wow.
He shared
Wow.
something on his Facebook page, and then I started listening to you every day from then.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
who would have
Thank
thought that I
you.
would get on the plane in Charleston and see you on that plane?
That was an amazing
Just
thing.
amazing, and I really, I mean, because you had on a mask and everything,
I
but I
did.
still recognized you.
Yes, you did. You were
How
like,
could you not recognize that energy?
Exactly.
thank
It was
you.
like everything, it was just bubbling all over first class. I was like, yeah, get you some and get you some and get you some. And it was really good. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So I wanted to talk to you, first of all, you have several books out,
Yeah.
right? But
Mhm.
particularly around, I want to talk about your reflections on being in a post-pandemic world,
Mm.
and the sociological effects that it has had on society.
It's interesting. Prior to the pandemic, everybody was, corporations, companies were like, can you please talk to us about life work balance? We want to spend more time with our kids. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, people were like, can you please talk about self care? Because I'm sick of my family, I'm sick of my job.
It's
And
true.
so there is this opportunity for us to talk to people about self care and to
Mhm.
redirect them from focusing on their body to their self, the soul, right? The psyche is soul. And so, how do they care for the soul? People don't know. And so, coming out of the pandemic, the irony of the situation is it's forced people to say, that brilliant question that Naim Akbar says we have to ask on a daily basis, why me here now?
Mhm.
And what folks did immediately was like rush back into life, try to rush into, big concerts are selling out. I can do a concert right now and I don't sing. Like really. And I can do a concert and people would show up because they just want to be there. And it's
Mhm.
because the self is social, and we are in South Africa they say ubuntu, we are a product of everything and everyone we connect with. And so
Mhm.
people are yearning for that connection. At the same time, there's this desire to go inside and heal the soul.
Yeah, and with this rushing back to normal, like Reverend Kelly Asola said, even normal is broken. Like
Yeah,
normal is not really normal anymore, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
like there is some anxiety, and I think that there is some mental health components that we haven't dealt with from being inside for so long. For people that did not have that social piece, maybe they were single, they didn't have any children, they didn't have what I mean, a partner or a spouse or whatever it is, and so they kind of did the last year and a half, 2 years by themselves.
you know the irony is, I, I do this daily story, and it was born out of the pandemic, where I'm sharing a story every single day. And it was to help people get through the pandemic. And I thought I was talking to five people. I honestly thought I was talking to five people.
No.
And I had no idea why my phone kept dinging and ringing. And I said to my daughter, fix my phone. She said, you went viral. And I was like, I don't have COVID. So I had no idea that that was happening. But I was talking to those five beautiful people who were in danger of losing themselves, through it. But what it exposed to me was this really deep loneliness that people have even when people are around.
Mhm.
And whether they are physically alone or with people, there is a loneliness and a yearning that, traditional stuff hasn't. And I say traditional, I don't mean traditional, I mean our regular talking at church has not met in people. And we have to be willing to help people see themselves so that they can heal and know that they belong and that they're not broken, that they're already a part of. Sometimes just that is enough.
I'm going to let Reverend Kendall go, but those, when you were talking to people and you thought it was just 5 people, it was so many more than 5 people, but you were giving a life-changing, life-saving word. What moved you or provoked you to start those viral messages?
So I have MS, and prior to the pandemic, I didn't talk about it because you don't want people to see you as less than or think you're not showing up or whatever. But it was this moment where we were all in together, and it was like I felt like everybody was feeling what I felt on a regular basis, of being shut inside myself. And so I sat down and I had a notebook because there's 9,000 of them. You know about those notebooks. You all know about those notebooks. There's 9,000 notebooks everywhere. And I wrote out, what do I know and what does my community need? And there's a beautiful Arabic proverb that says, when a person seeks their purpose, the universe conspires to answer.
Mm,
And that night, somebody said, I'm going to take my life. I can't make it. And I just talked all night. I talked, I sang, I told jokes, I did anything I could to keep him here to the morning. And then the next day, the same thing happened, and there were 5 people. And then the 6th was somebody with COVID, and her daughter was sharing through Facebook to her what was happening. And so she came off the ventilator, and her request was to call me.
mm,
She called me and she said, you gotta keep going. You gotta keep going. I was like, who is this? And she said, God wants you to keep going. I'm not done. And they had to put her back on the ventilator. And she was in the hospital for 72 days.
wow.
And when she came off, she said, I know my purpose. I know my stories. I know I have work to do. I know because I listen to you every day. And so it was, why me here now? What do I know? What does my community need? And I knew I could inspire hope. I knew everything I could about stratification, the unequal distribution of wealth, power, and prestige in a society. I knew some theology I was, studying, but the emphasis was really on using story to help people remember, recall, recollect, and remember their own stories so that they could find these places. We're not telling our part of the story. And if I may use my hermeneutical privilege, we have the ability to see into some things that others can't see,
That's right.
that they don't know, that they can't experience. And it is our responsibility to step up and say, let me show you, because clearly you can't see it from where you are. You can't see it from the center. The center keeps you from seeing the margins and from really understanding the power of this. And so, somebody said, are you going to continue? And I was like, there's these people here who are in need. And so I get up in the morning early and I pray and I wait for what comes, and whatever comes is what I share.
That's
And
right.
I was like, I hope this makes some sense, because I don't know, this is crazy, but okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
That's
a
good. Kendall?
Dr. Berry, I want to, first of all, just thank you for the ways in which I'll just put it blankly, put it straight to the fact, ministered to my soul during the pandemic. The ways in which your stories just gripped me in a very visceral and deep place was nothing but life-giving. So I am deeply appreciative just to be in your presence and for all that you are to the world, and just honored to have this opportunity to share with you. And I'm going to share something else, and it will probably spark a memory for you. So one day you were sharing a memory of your music professor during your college years,
Yeah.
and you were talking about a trip to his hometown, Martinsville, Virginia.
Yes.
And you didn't even know the name of the city, but I put in the notes the name of the city. I said that was Martinsville, Virginia.
Yes. Oh my
And
goodness.
the person that you are referencing is his last name is Morris.
Leander Morris.
Yes, and his grandfather baptized my grandmother.
Yes, I
His
remember
father
that comment.
baptized my.
Oh my goodness.
I
Wow.
am
Oh
that
my
person.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow.
Yes, High Street in Martinsville, Virginia.
Yes,
I have relatives from that church.
that is amazing. See, that's the other piece of this, that it showed how connected we all are in these
Mhm.
stories and the memories. Mr. Mars is a huge part of my life.
Yes.
And his demand for excellence, his glasses would be down here and he'd go, "You're not singing the way you're supposed to sing. You're acting like crazy. And you're called to leadership." And even now, my childhood best buddy, Tia Thompson, lives just down the road from me because her parents came to visit the year my mother passed away. And they came to have Thanksgiving down here with us. And we didn't know that his family was from Georgia. So they got out the car and he said, "I never understood why my mother always wanted to come back, but now I do. I want to live down here." And I was like, "Well, there's some houses on the street for sale." And they ended up
Wow.
moving down here.
Wow.
And so T and we were with another friend this weekend, and it never fails. We go into Mr. Morris and the lessons that he taught us, and the respect that he taught us to have for ourselves. So I remember that comment, and I remember you flushing out the whole thing. And I was like,
Yes.
"Yes, it's Martinsville." Because I couldn't remember, was it Danville, Martinville? I
Martin's,
don't
yeah, they're beside one another.
Yeah.
His brother actually pastored for years and was a close family friend. His brother
Wow.
sang at my grandmother's funeral, sang "It
Wow.
Is Well with My Soul," and Reverend Morris pastored High Street Baptist Church for decades and decades. I went to school with his children and with his grandchildren,
Mhm.
and lots of family connections. So yeah, it was just amazing to hear you
That's
tell that story.
amazing. That's absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
It's apparent to me that your stories come out of a very deep well,
Mhm.
and I'm just interested. Who were the storytellers that influenced you? Where does this tradition? Uh, where was it birthed in you?
So that's a wonderful question. I think Mr. Morris was a great storyteller. Um, he was a great, great storyteller. Um, B.B. Ross Coker, who was another, they wrote plays together and cantatas and things together. And
Mhm.
she's a poet laureate, fantastic storyteller. She did this play called Moti Miss Ann about a domestic worker.
Mm.
Miss Ann come asking me about Jim, my boy, what he gonna be. I kept on pouring up her tea. I said, "For now, he in grade 12." She said, "Mom, may he have done well. Well, what's for next for him?" I say, "Spec college for my Jim. What name the school? You do know, May?" "Yeah, it's Henard, Honard, Hoonard, Harvard, Boston way." And so we got these great lessons. And then my mother was a wonderful storyteller. And her grandfather, she was raised with her grandparents who were storytellers and who were abolitionists. And so this tradition of storytelling is in us. And fortunately, I had educators who were great storytellers. My pastor, childhood pastor in the Mother Church of God in Christ in Wilmington, Delaware, was a wonderful
Mm-hmm.
storyteller. And this tradition, I tell people, when people want to offend me, they say, "What's your story?" That's offensive to me because we don't have a story.
That's right.
We
Single
have,
story.
we're a library.
Mm.
And just like the Bible is thousands and thousands and millions and millions and millions of stories, we are to continue these stories. But we stop because we say this thing is the unadulterated and you can't contribute to it. You don't get to. And yes, we do.
Right.
If we
Right.
tell these stories and then we tell them, my editor used to say, when a person dies, a library closes, and it's our responsibility to keep it open.
Mm.
Mm, mm,
Right before we came in, a friend in California messaged and said, "My mother died today." And I could see her mother, who lived in Brazil, Italian woman who lived in Brazil, and
mm,
this beautiful, beautiful woman. And I could see her. And in seeing her, I had to remember what she shared and the essence that she gave. And that's what we call lifting them up. And so,
right.
in those critical hours, you lift them up so that we will see them and we can connect with them and we can tap into their stories
Mm-hmm.
when we need them for our own strength today. We are wired for narrative. We're absolutely wired for it. And the collective consciousness, the African consciousness, is right there if
Hmm.
we tap into it. If we stop trying to stop somebody's story because we don't like the way we think they live. We don't know anything
Mm.
about how they live. We just
That's
don't
Right.
right.
like it. And that piece of that story is the story I need. Terry Evenson, who put me through school, and we didn't know why he was putting all these brown people through school. He was, every people all over the place. We had no idea. And then he sat us down somewhere in my probably mid to late 30s and said, "I need to tell you something." This millionaire white man from northern Minnesota. We were like, "What's he doing?" He said, "I have been in the closet all these years and it's time for me to come out. But I didn't think it was my time. And I thought if I supported the rights of somebody else, maybe somebody would support mine."
Hmm.
Hmm.
Ooh,
Yeah.
the connectedness of that. There are people who are
And you're
pilots,
telling his story today.
Exactly.
exactly,
Yeah.
pilots and engineers who walked away from him
Hmm.
because they thought that their religion, or clearly their religion wasn't clear or their faith wasn't whatever, and they walked away from him. But what I got to have and hold on to was his life and his stories and his children and his grandchildren and his love and all. I mean, this man was self-made. When I need to question something, I'm like, "Terry, what should I do about this?" You have access to that because you embrace this whole person and lift up their rights. We keep cutting off our own selves
Mm.
because we cut off pieces of our family to suit whatever lie we're telling ourselves.
Mm,
Mhm.
So
mm,
we're not separate.
mm,
We're as
mm.
connected as our stories. What are the odds that you would be there and know the
Right.
Morris family that way?
Hmm.
It's just unreal.
Absolutely
Exactly.
amazing.
It's powerful because I think, and I'm listening to people just talk about these stories that you tell and the stories
Mm,
that you have told.
mm,
And I know that you talk a lot about your mom.
yeah.
You give a lot of stories about your mom. You talk about the light.
Mhm.
And I know that you are soon to become a deacon
Yeah.
in the Episcopal Church.
Yes.
Look, fingers crossed. Huh?
Yes.
I think that is wonderful. So, what led you on that path?
Oof. So my mom, let me start with her. I can remember my earliest memory. We were moving from the projects to Gordon Street, which was really an alley between two streets, but we thought we were moving on up. And I remember there was a hammer on the table, and the mamas and the papas were singing in the background, and I was banging the hammer to the beat. And my sister looked at me and said, "Oh my God, she knows what's happening." And I told my sister this story, and she said, "There's no way you remember that." And I said, "Yes, I do. I remember I had the hammer and you picked me up." And she said, "You were one." And I went back and looked at the dates, and yeah, I was one. And my mother was also looking at me going, "That's my baby." She's, "Oh my God, my baby's so smart." And I remembered that. And I remembered being at church until I was 5, and my mother leaving church and not wanting to have anything to do with it. And then I went to church on my own. My mother taught me how to forgive. She said forgiveness is not about letting somebody else off the hook, it's about getting off the one they put you on.
Come on now.
My mother was the one I felt I had to forgive the most. She
Mm.
was alcoholic, she was abusive. And when you hear me tell stories about my mother, it's not the story I'm typically telling because she transformed.
Yeah.
And so the if you really want to make me mad, tell me people can't change.
How about that?
They ain't never gonna change. That's just how they are. They ain't never gonna change. My mother became the most loving earth mother woman on the planet.
Wow.
She taught us love coming and going. Everybody and his cousin would be at my house just getting love from my mother. She embraced everybody's children, every people whose mothers left them, grown 60 and 70-year-old people whose families had nothing to do with them. My mom became their mother. And it was so beautiful to watch her be who she was. Well, I belong to Pentecostal church. I left and got saved. Um, and then I belonged to another church and I left running. And I said I was not going back to church. And there was this beautiful, wealthy white woman in Savannah. And when I say wealthy, I mean old money on top of her new money, who served with me on a board for literacy. And every time this woman saw me, she invited me to church. And I had a soul wound from church. I wasn't going back to church. I was done with church. God was like this fine, fine man that I wanted to go out with, but he had bad kids. And so I was like, no, no, I'm done. She invited me to church every time she saw me for 5 years. And I finally went. And walking in, you don't know anybody. She was late. Some woman came and grabbed me and hugged me and said, "Bertice, Celia said you were coming. She said you would be here." And I was like, "No, I told her I might come." And she said, "But we prayed that you would come." And I was like, "What is this?" And that day, I think I was probably the only Black person that I saw, but I wasn't like looking around.
Right.
And the sermon was preached by a deacon, and it was like she had been following me around all week. She spoke so deeply. And then the liturgy, the whole liturgy, just the reading of entire passages, which, I just got a hold of a copy of the Slave Bible and it's been rebound for me. So just seeing how it was. And so I left, and my friend called and said, "So what was that like?" And I said, "It looked like Downton Abbey and sounded like Malcolm X. I have to go back to figure this out."
Mm-hmm.
I felt such a tremendous sense of belonging. I didn't do anything. I didn't join anything. I didn't do anything. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't even go to refreshments, downstairs afterwards, because I just wanted to study what it was that I was feeling and experiencing. And then one Sunday, one of the rectors, one of the associate rectors, Helen, preached a sermon about walking in the footsteps of the ancestors. And I realized that they would call out the names of ancestors who had passed in prayer years after they were gone. And I was like, what is this? And the deeper I got, the more powerful it became. And so then they said, well, you can be received. I said, wait a minute, y'all got more? Because I ain't know nothing. I didn't know the difference between the red book, the blue book, what they were, nothing. I went to a Sunday school class, and it was like somebody had opened up my brain and was scratching my scalp for me. It was so brilliant. And it was this invitation to bring your intellect and your heart.
Yes.
And and the more I became a part of it. And then one year I was fasting for a friend who was going through a terrible divorce. And I heard the call, and I was like, no, I've done enough, and I'm tired, and I got work to do in other areas, and I'm good. And then my rector said, I'd like to have coffee with you. And he said, I don't want to, I've only talked to my wife about this. And so if you want to tell me to just go away, I will. Nobody else will know. But I feel the Holy Spirit saying there's more for you. And I think there's a call. And he said, you can go home and pray about it. And I said, no, I'm going to just go ahead up here to this counter in this coffee shop and get me some bread. I'm going to go ahead and eat, because I think this is what this was for.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been in deacon school and learning and going deeper, and started a podcast called The Mysteries of Our Faith. We're going back into the studio to do season 2 soon.
Lovely.
Because, you both know, when you get to study this, you see so differently, and you see so many things that, by the time you're out and worried about leaky roofs and how's everybody going to get over here and do this, those things kind of take a step back. But I don't want to do that. I want the role of the deacon is an emissary between the church and the world. And so I'm blessed for this calling. My pastor growing up said to me, you're going to be a minister one day. And I was like, how? This is the Church of God in Christ. And women don't step foot up there unless they bringing you some orange juice. And he said, don't worry about that. Things are going to change, but you're not called to be in the church. You're called to be in the world and bringing it back to the church. And that is literally the role of the deacon. Mm-hmm. So that's a very long story of how it happened. But
wow.
I'm still with that hammer, bringing out justice.
That's a great way. It's a great story.
Thank you.
Right? Somebody's going to hear that. Go ahead, Kendall.
Yeah, and there's so many folks. I worked in theological education for 12 years.
Wow.
And had the pleasure of meeting many Black Episcopalians who have been trying to woo me for a number of years. but come
on
Bishop,
now. Look, you're one of us. You come on. You one of us.
But I have found that there is a common strand in the Episcopal Church that makes room for the mystical, and that is very akin to the experiences of Black Pentecostalism. And it's weird when you first experience it, because you're like, I know this, but I shouldn't be feeling this here.
Right.
Yeah, but Bishop Nathan Baxter, retired Bishop of Central Pennsylvania, the Bishop of Maryland, they both have experiences in the Pentecostal Church. A good friend of ours my husband and I is a rector in Central Pennsylvania, and she grew up in the Church of God in Christ. And so we're surrounded by tons of folks with an experience and a background just like yours.
Yeah, and what's so amazing, because of Mr. Morris, because of Leander Morris, my choral background is so familiar with the music of high church. Right. that makes more sense to me than the music. He would tell us, now I know you're going to church on Sunday, but don't be in there screaming.
Right, messing up your voice.
Like that. We don't sing like that. Okay, I'll be ready for Cavalier Rusticana when I get back. But until then, so that makes more sense to me culturally than what I was doing, because Leander Mars was such an influence.
Right, right.
And then, we have George Fergus from the cathedral as our minister of music now, who is like, are you kidding me? So it made sense. But what also made sense was stepping into, what I think is probably more African than what I've experienced in quote unquote black church. It's why Paulie Murray,
Yeah.
Yes.
after
One of
I
my
doing,
see her in the back.
heroes. Yes.
Yes.
she stays behind me. That's
I
who's
see her.
looking over me every day. Um, it's why she, having done what she did, found that need to be one of the first ordained women in the Episcopal Church. Um, that even with breaking all the barriers and doing all the work and being the one, knowing that apart from God, we can do nothing,
That's right.
because we're never apart.
Hmm.
And,
Right.
and the more we see each other, the more we become the hands of God, the more we can see
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful. Also, I'm just thinking about these stories again, and you being on this journey to become an Episcopal deacon. And I'm just thinking about how you said that it was more akin to what you had been looking for, what your
Mhm.
spirit needed, right? And every time I look at Michael Curry, Bishop Michael Curry, I
Right,
say to myself,
right,
this man is extraordinary.
right.
And some of the work that he has done within the Episcopal Church has been powerful. And I was trying to tell you before we came on, but this is a good time to talk about it, is that the Episcopal Church, at least the southern region, they have to raise like XYZ amounts of millions of dollars, whatever it is. But the bottom line is the money is for Black students
Hmm.
to go to historically Black colleges.
Hmm.
So they could either go to Norfolk State or to, I think, Hampton, and they will pay full tuition if they are members of the Episcopal Church.
Yeah, so different dioceses are doing different things. Some are paying for education, some are paying for monuments, markers, remembrances, and the Deacon Anna Alexander, the saint in the Episcopal Church, is from Georgia. So our previous bishop led the way to do some things, and our bishop, Frank Logue, is picking up that work and doing tremendous things. And so every diocese, some are just doing straight out reparations.
Hmm.
Yes,
and
Maryland
yes,
is. Yeah.
Mhm.
yes.
Hmm.
and people can look and say, I created this thing, the Barry Verscher internal diversity assessment, to measure your own internal diversity. And it came out of worshiping with these folks who you look at and you think one thing, and you peel back a layer and you see marched with King, did, was there when, the riot started, was it, and you see all of these layers of things, but amazing artists and folks who are changing the way education happens in medical schools, and all of these things. And so the diversity that needs to happen within us
Mhm.
is tremendous, and sometimes more so with my own siblings than somewhere else, that I'm more embraced with my really crazy kind of way of living. I mean, it's bananas to anybody who's not a geek.
Mhm.
that,
I
I
hear you.
saw, I was working with a company the other day, and someone there mentioned the Parliament of Global Religion that's happening
Hmm.
in Chicago. And I was
Hmm.
like, and I'm in the meeting texting people going, book your ticket, we going. I found a condo, we gonna stay. Come on, who's coming with me? And my little geeky friends were like, we gonna need 2 condos. Because that's exciting.
Yes, it is.
And then there are a few people who are like, but doesn't that make you wonder about your own faith if you go around some other faiths? I'm like, ain't no room for you in the condo.
This ain't your trip.
Not your trip. It's not your
Right,
trip. It's not your trip.
right.
You
It's
know,
okay.
it's not your trip. It's not. It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I don't know which trip I'm going to be on. That's going to be your trip. I really not going to work.
Yeah.
But to be able to find folks who get as excited about things like that as I do, who don't, you don't need the second invitation. In fact, we have this thing. I'll text, hey girl, hey, there's an exhibit of the blah blah blah, and they're, oh hey girl, hey, what time? I'll be there. No
Right.
question of who is it, what is it, how is it. Same with the music festival we have here,
Yeah.
where they'll bring Africans from musicians from Senegal and from Ukraine and put them together on the same stage.
It's so fabulous.
Hey girl, hey, music festival tonight. Nobody says who's playing,
Right.
where we meeting. And so that response to life and that more abundantly
Mhm.
is what I want our folks to know more of. It pains me, when I look in the slave Bible and I see what was left out. And I hear folks today with what they emphasize. It's like they're reading the same thing.
Right.
Mhm.
So, you know, we're going to get there. We are
Oh
going to
yeah,
get there. We're going to get there.
100%.
Some
So now
people will be
you,
on a later train.
well, that's okay. You are teaching. You're doing a lot of teaching. You have these. I don't. I don't know if you call them conferences, but I know that people come together for
Mm.
storytelling, for
Yeah.
writing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The Institute for Story came out of the Story Keepers program at Hospice Savannah. It's started by a woman named Dottie Klutz. It's a brilliant thing where she was keeping last stories of folks. And so the Institute for Story supports the story keeping program. And we have what's called StoryCon.
Mhm.
And it's actually happening this weekend from the 4th through the 6th.
Look at that.
And it starts Sunday, it starts really Sunday evening into Tuesday.
Mhm.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And people from all over the place come to Savannah for StoryCon. And this year, some interesting things are happening. We're doing a piece where several people who are sharing stories, and you come to learn the business of story, the mechanics of story, and the science of story. And then we're putting it together with the symphony, who will compose pieces for the stories that we select,
Nice.
Wow.
and then that part is open to the city. But the conference is wonderful. And then I do some things at in Boone, North Carolina, at the Art of Living Retreat Center. And I'm going to be there again in October on doing a retreat for finding your authentic voice. And the
Mm.
rest of my work is, usually closed. It's corporations that hire me to come in and um, either talk about diversity and what's beautiful is now more people are bringing me in to talk about what I kind of the movement I pushed forth, which was belonging. I wanted us
Mhm.
to go beyond inclusion, which is literally something you cut out, but I wasn't there when they asked. So to belonging. And then a lot of places are bringing me in for story to help. You can go further when you go deeper, and sharing story takes you further faster.
Mm, I love that.
That's
And then we have a
powerful.
story group. It's called Stories to Tell with Dr. Bertice Berry. Agent told me years ago, if you wanted to maintain the integrity, you have to put your name on it because then you're going to watch it. And so that group meets online, and these people share stories back and forth from their lives. And then one story may bring up a story in somebody else, and it pings back and forth. And there's about 6,000 people in there who share stories.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Now,
crazy, amazing.
yeah, that's really amazing. And all of this, Because I know you had a talk show in 1990,
Mm-hmm.
but all of what's happening now has sprung up since the pandemic. Yes.
All of it. I was, I had so little presence on social media. I didn't even know how to use it. And it was a way. My family. Okay, so I had this head injury, and then out of the head injury, one day I was walking through here, and the Holy Spirit said, "Make a dress," and I was like, "I don't know how to sew," and so I made a dress, and then I kept making clothes, and I kept making clothes, and I started making clothes for the homeless. And so one of the things that I knew was how to sew by the time the pandemic came. So I was making masks before they announced a shortage. Go
Wow.
figure. And so my family and I made over 30,000 masks.
Mm.
So I started sharing the stories to these 5 people online because I couldn't sew and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, if I post them, they can find them whenever, they could play it over again. Had no idea that all these other people were watching.
Wow. Wow. And you
And
go ahead,
worry.
Kendall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I know folks want to hear about Cecil. Tell us the
Yes.
backstory of Cecil.
Cecil,
Right.
Cecil,
They already saying shout out to Cecil. So just so you know.
my daughter Fatima, um, they love to make me laugh. They love to make me laugh from the time they were 3. They noticed that when I'm laughing, all is right with the world. And Fatima told me one day that I give so much to everybody else. The thing she knew she could give me was laughter.
Hmm.
And so they have always done these crazy characters. She would bring me some food in my room and walk out with her arms backwards and say, "My liege," and would just back out. And so one day, this Cecil character, and they have the most rubber face ever. Fatima's face is so beautiful, but they can take on the face of any character. So Cecil came up. Cecil is this British butler who's like 184. And so Fatima does this character. And one day somebody wrote and said, "Is your daughter transitioning?" And I was like, "From what?" I said, "What do you mean? Is Cecil like who they're transitioning to?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said they're a therapist. And I said, "Not a good one."
Say less. Say less.
So
Right.
I said, "No, Fatima's non binary, but they're not transitioning into Cecil. And
Mm-hmm.
why would they turn into a British butler?" So then this woman said, "Well, does she have some kind of personality disorder?" And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "What?" So I told Fatima said, "Wouldn't it be horrible if I did and you were filming it and
Right.
posting it online?"
Exactly.
Which is their response to everything. Is always humor. But this Cecil character, Fatima is 9,000 characters in a day. They got a character to talk to the dogs, and it's like some kind of a listen. Now you know, like, where'd that come from? But it's all to make me laugh. And so sometimes people would respond and say, "You're laughing too loud. I can't even hear what Cecil's saying." And Fatima's response is, "Your laughter is the point."
Right.
They're getting, and Fatima's very introverted, unless there were people they love. I have 5 adopted children. They're all born fetal alcohol and crack addicted. So there's all kinds of, we live on Spectrum Lane. So the beauty in our household, the gift that God gave me for raising these beautiful beings was not only the gift that they are to me, but the gift of laughter, because our
Mm.
house is always filled with laughter. Whenever, and when there's more than 3 of them here, I have to go to my room and shut the door because they will just, and you're like, "Stop it, you need to stop it, I can't, stop it." They're just that funny. Cecil. And I wish Cecil was down here, but because you would see that Cecil's like, "No, no."
I love it. That's so powerful. And the last thing, tell us just about, you have several books, but I think it's the latest book that
Black
you have.
World. There's a
Black
copy of it
World.
here. Black
Yes.
World
Yeah.
is so cool.
So
Black World is about a woman who is finishing her doctoral program, but she's been tapped by the ancestors and is being tested by flying around and giving away money that her aunt has left her to give away to test her to determine whether or not she's going to be the revealer of Black World. And Black World is a corner of heaven where the living and the dead can converse.
mm,
And
Wow.
so it is history with hope. And you go to Black World and you see Malcolm X talking to Chance the Rapper. And so there's all of these people, some we know, some we don't know, stories we don't know, that are being shared through the lens of Black World. And how we can get there. You get there through Du Bois's double consciousness. And this main character, Rose, has to reveal a third path. And Du Bois talked about the double consciousness, how we see ourselves and how others see us. And that third portal is how God sees us, which is how we should see ourselves. And so, Black World, I went to a place, prepare a place for you. And so I call it Black World. I was doing a reading, and this woman said, I just don't understand why white people get to come to Black World because Einstein is there and Tesla. And I don't understand. And we can't have nothing to ourselves. And I was like,
mm,
because it's heaven, baby.
exactly.
And and I called it Black World because I wanted something good to be called Black.
I love that. I love
Can't
that.
wait to read it.
Exactly. And so for those of you that are interested in getting the book, you can go to www.freemanhousepublishing.org and you can purchase that book. I encourage you to make sure that you buy that particular book of Dr. Bertice Berry. Before we let you go, oh, can this book also be bought on Amazon?
No,
Only through the
no,
publisher.
no.
So
You
only through the
can't,
publisher.
because you don't go to the Amazon to see the Great Wall of China.
How about that? You got to go.
And it is about owning and controlling the means of production.
That's right. I
Love it.
We
love
could
that.
really,
I
Did y'all
love it.
know that?
yeah. So there
Owning
are
and
some
controlling.
booksellers that carry it because we cut in booksellers to get a huge discount that they wouldn't get from anyone else. We can't do that if we distribute through Amazon. And because, when you have worked hard to build a road and then you give it back to the people who kept you from having access to that road, it makes absolutely no sense. So the
Absolutely.
Audible is available as well at freemanhousepublishing.org.
And you can get the
Excellent.
book on Audible. Did you hear that? All right, make sure you go to www.freemanhousepublishing.org so that you can get the book. People have already read it. See people are saying how transformative the book has been
Wow.
as well. So yes, please buy it, buy a gift for someone else if you can. And so one last question before we let you go, Dr. Berry. Tell me, what would you like our audience to know? Something that we haven't spoken of.
Hmm. I think that right now, tonight, we are all you're all enough. You're more than enough. And don't be afraid of your stories. You heal through those stories. And then I want to give you what my mom gave me on the day she died. She said, I don't have a lot of money, and all the good jewelry you gave it to me. It wouldn't be right to give it back. And I was like, yes, it would. She said, I'm going to take all of the generational baggage, the hurt, the shame, the things that happened to me, my mother, and her mother before. I'm going to pack it up and take it with me to the other side. I'm leaving you a clean slate. She
Ah,
said, when you talk to those who do more for others than they do for themselves, you tell them that every day me and the ancestors are giving them a clean slate, and
Oof.
every day they get to start new.
that's powerful.
Mm.
That is, that's pretty much my word for tonight. That's power, because it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no greater gift.
Mm.
Thank you so
Mm.
much for that tonight.
Thank
I
you.
want to, I want to encourage everyone to make sure that you share, um, that you can go back and watch this. You can go and listen to it tomorrow if you need to, but you can go back and watch it tonight. And listen to it tomorrow on Spotify. An amazing conversation with Dr. Bertice Berry. We know that we're going to hear more and more and more about her great work. Listen to her. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram and all of the social
Yes.
media
Yes. Like
platforms.
her page on Facebook and follow
Like her
for
page. Please do
daily
that.
nuggets. Yes.
Absolutely. Like powerful things to transform your life. Um, and really to lift your spirit. And I really want to say thank you for even saying yes.
I'm
You
so
didn't
glad I was on that flight. I'm so
you
glad
didn't know
you
me,
recognized
but
me
you still told me
with that
yes.
bad hat that you had on.
I did. You do remember. Okay,
Man,
very
that
good.
hat was like slamming.
Thank
Ugh.
you. It's been wonderful. Such a wonderful conversation. I have 2 advertisements to give, and we're not going to give away a book tonight. We're going to ask you to buy it. Please
Yes.
buy the book. All right. And buy for someone else. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we encourage you all tonight. We are so grateful for Beyond the Gatekeepers. We're doing current events through a theological and justice-informed lens. And so we ask that you support our broadcasts by sending a donation to $ Cash App or to $TFAM Annual or to our PayPal, which is www.paypal.me/TFAM Justice. And so we appreciate whatever it is that you will and can do to support the work so that we can go on. You all know, and Bishop Flunder has told you, we're trying to elevate our platform and we're trying to get out there more. And we've been doing this for the last 3 years now. In the month of May, we made 3 years. We started in the pandemic. So we trust that this is going to be something that you want to invest in because you keep watching us, and we appreciate that so much. We also would like to invite you to our Holy Convocation. On behalf of Bishop Yvette Flunder, who is our presiding prelate, we will have our TFAM Holy Convocation 2023. Our theme is Miracles, Signs, and Wonders. We will be in Atlanta, Georgia, July 5th through the 9th. That's Atlanta, Georgia, July 5th to the 9th. And we will be at the Sheraton Atlanta Hotel, 165 Cortlandt Street, Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia. And you can go to our website at www.radicallyinclusive.org. You will find information about registration. You will find the agenda. You will also find information about hotels. Please, we want you to support these particular events. We start Wednesday night. We have appointment of Global Presbyteries. Thursday night, we have new ordination and new church affiliates. Friday night, we have a white party. Saturday during the day is Episcopal consecrations that start at 10 a.m. Saturday evening is Founders Night. We'll have a celebration and song for Bishop Flunder. Sunday morning is early morning baptism and Holy Communion along with anointing service. We want you to be at that. During the day, we have plenaries and workshops. And we have vending as well. So we want you just to come out and support. We appreciate you so very, very much. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We ask that you have a wonderful evening. And until next time, God bless.